Okay, if his mind was to leave, I would draw. So we see his thought goes, he hollers, this is perfect. And then it gives us an opportunity to ask the question, bring his mind back. The concept of body mapping is something that I've come up with. And the purpose of it is that I find that people have a bit of a challenging time understanding what it means to feel the internal elements of a horse. So the concept of body mapping is obviously we're speaking to the entirety of the horse's body, and I want to map out how it feels. Tension can be stored in a horse in many different ways, and that isn't much different than it is with people. Some people store their tension in their hips. When they get stressed out, they hold tension in their jaw. Your horse isn't much different. When they go into life and they have areas of their life that they start to get anxious about, that tension is going to get stored somewhere. If our work doesn't speak specifically to helping them release that tension, it creates soreness, creates anxieties in the body that turn into tensions that don't let your horse move right. Okay, if his mind was to leave, I would draw. So we see his thought goes, he hollers, this is perfect. And then it gives us an opportunity to ask the question, bring his mind back. Good. And I wouldn't go into the halter to fix that. Okay, I'm just going to take a minute here and work on bringing his attention back. Good. As his thought comes back, I release. I want to stay calm and relaxed for him. I want him to recognize that I'm not, if something worries him, I'm not attached to that. I want to recognize it, but I also want to make sure I stay in a calm, relaxed space. I bring his attention back to me. Again, I want to apply my pressure and bring his thought back. And then I can go right back to my work. Now, as I put my hand in the halter, I want to feel that pull joint soften, but I also want to make sure that his top line is staying off. So I should feel that as I bring my body in, the shoulder stays elevated, he can rotate his jaw. And then what I want to feel like is that through his whole body, I can feel him step under and across and bend around the rein. Good. So the pull releases, and when the pull releases, that should have a positive effect all the way through his body. Now, when we talked about the feel, we talked about being able to sense what's happening in me, feeling the lead, and then sensing a release in the horse. And at this stage in the game, all I want to do is see that when I can connect to this rein, that I can feel what's happening in the head and neck, and I'm going straight down. I'm not going forward, I'm not going back. I'm just looking for a release that's straight down. And when you see that there's an actual release, you'll be able to sense it in your horse. Either just based on the fact that they can retain their position, that they can keep their head down. You might see them lick and chew, you might see them yawn, you might see more facial expression, but you'll probably sense something. What you shouldn't see is the horse pop their head directly back up. So the first thing that I want to see when you ask a horse, when you're starting, is that we're just looking for a release from the withers to the pole. You just want to see them relax their head, their neck and their head, and get to a place where they'll retain a feel. What this is doing is this is making sure that on the top line perspective that there is no tension retained. Once we've got that, and you can ask the horse to release their top line, or excuse me, their head and neck, we now want to move into what the horse is doing in their shoulders. Now to do that, I'm just going to change my angle a little bit. And just so that you can see this a little bit better, I will do this in a way where I'm going to actually do this by walking, because this makes it a little bit easier. So we've got the head and neck softening, and you can recognize he's not packing tension. He's able to stay in a release. And now I want to start sensing what's happening in the shoulders. So I take my hand down, but now slightly forward. The goal is not necessarily to lead the horse forward, but it's that you can start feeling what tension is in the shoulders. So there's times the horse might reach their nose forward, and that's okay. What you want to do is you just want to reach past that, and I want to feel what's happening in his shoulders. Now what most horses will do is, as we do this, they just start to walk forward. So you can see that his shoulder is very close to me. He's almost taking his head slightly to the outside and his shoulder wants to come towards me. And so what I do is I actually want to keep my hip somewhere here so that he has to somewhat go around me. Okay, and as I connect with my hand, I want to sense forward and down that those shoulders are starting to have a feel in them. So again, I'm not just speaking to the head and neck. The head and neck would be right here, down, good. And now I want to take that hand forward and down and start sensing where the shoulders start to release. So I want to make sure that I'm also using my hip a little bit to make sure that the shoulders are not pushing into me and that I can feel them energetically. If the horse's shoulders are pushing in on you, then that means that there's still a tension in the shoulders that needs to be dealt with. So at this stage, we're taking the hand more forward and we're trying to release that top line through the head, neck, and now the shoulders.